Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joe Malkin, sitting down with the Massachusetts Maritime Academy Buccaneer women's lacrosse team. Head coach Leslie Bushy, Casey Sullivan, and Anna Deely. It's nice that you guys have your name tags on. It's easy to remember who you are, because how would we know who you are, right?
Exactly.
So we're sitting down talking about the women's lacrosse program, which is the youngest program on campus, only been around since 2012. You were the second coach, but you've been a part of the program since its inception, and you took over for Julie in 2013. And I want to start with the first question of, like, what was it like to take over such a young program at Mass Maritime, a women's program that had never been around before, right? So you're starting from the ground up in a lot of ways. What was that like to start a program here?
It was very difficult. It was hard to field a team at first. We had a lot of low numbers, and we had a lot of people who came onto the team, realized that they wasn't for them, and then left. For us, there was lots of practices where we had 5-6 girls there, games where we had no subs, and even games where we had played a man down. So I think for me, that was probably the biggest issue, was trying to figure out how to get enough girls to field the team in order to start improving.
And that seems to have been a challenge for a lot of the women's sports around here. We talked to Coach Karate about what it was like to start the women's programs around here, because he was here at the reinstatement of volleyball. He started women's soccer and started women's lacrosse, and we've seen the low numbers in all those sports. What now, as a spectator, in a lot of ways, what do you think has been the leading cause of the women's lacrosse program growing so rapidly? And those numbers that you spoke about, they were so low. Now they're much higher than they were. What do you think that?
Well, I think when you have a program that is, so new, and you don't have the buy-in necessarily from what is a very small number of females on campus, once you finally start being able to field a practice with enough players and games with enough players, then all of a sudden you are improving and you have a winning season, and then you have the draw, and then you see the recruits who are interested in coming, and when they feel a part of the team before they even join the regiment of cadets, they are more likely to stay for 4 years. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest issues, was having girls who, didn't feel that buy-in from the beginning, and then didn't feel like it didn't matter to them that when they made the decision to just drop the sport because the pressures of the academy and the regiment was too much for them.
So playing off of that and talking now to Casey and Anna, we've talked about the pressures of the academy. We've talked about it with Coach Karate, Coach Kelly, Coach Perry, Musa Pam, who was a cadet here back in the 90s. And we've played on that, but I guess this is really for the three of you, but what difficulties do you feel you overcame to be able to get past that and stay on the team and play at such a high level?
Well, for me, I feel like I was always a shy person, so the regiment was a lot to take on. So joining a team and having those people on your back is biggest thing. You make friends right away, and you have them to connect with, and it's just very helpful to get through the regiment as a freshman.
Yeah, and having those relationships, because we all went through orientation together, and we know what we've been through kind of with the regiment. So yeah, definitely those relationships and friendships you make with each other.
And that kind of goes into that buy-in, right? The coach has to get you to buy in, and we see that now. Obviously, we saw that with Leslie, but we see it now with Marc, and we see it with Coach Correa as well, who is here on campus all the time. So, kind of getting into the coaching aspect of it, you and I talked prior to coming on about Marc Palombo. What was it like to have him as an assistant coach, and then see him elevated to being the head coach?
Oh, I mean, anyone who has ever met Marc Palombo understands that the passion he has for the sport of lacrosse, the academy itself, and especially this team is evident from all you got to do is go and sit in the stands for one game and you'll hear it. He is I think being especially in the position of an alumni and someone who currently goes out to sea as a lobster fisherman still, he's been so, it's been great for the girls to have someone who understands where they're coming from and what they're dealing with. And he would help any of them with anything that they would ever need. He is an ardent supporter of the academy and athletics here, and he's a wonderful human being, and I just feel so lucky to have him as a friend.
I think one of the biggest things that he saw as a head coach was your 2020 season getting cut short. I don't think anybody was more upset about that than he was, and for a lot of reasons. And I don't want to push it, but I think I probably don't love the team as much as he does, but I love the women's lacrosse team. And to watch you guys play and do the things that you do day in and day out, especially the two of you along with Cammie, Alyssa, Nora. I mean, watching Jen Leung play defense. We all love Jen, right? Amanda Gould running up the sideline and
Marc yelling at her.
Marc yelling at her, but her body checking girls and wondering why the whistle blew. It's just so much fun. And I mean, you have such a good defensive back line, not just Jen and Amanda, but you had Heather back there, you had Corrine back there, and it just such a cohesive team. And watching you guys be able to do what you do, and I was talking to Coach Correa after the season was canceled, and we'll get to the game, your last game of 2020 in a few minutes, but. And one of the things that Michaela said would be part of Marc's, not regret, but disappointment in the season is the tear that you were on scoring goals and the tear that Alyssa was on. She had 18 assists in 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, she was third in the
She was
country.
on fire. Yeah.
I mean, she right, and I mean, everything was just clicking on all cylinders for you guys. I mean, sure, you went 3-1, right? And that's an official record in 2020. So, by the way, you've now had 2 winning seasons. Congratulations.
Counts.
And maybe should have won the SUNY game, but besides the point.
Whatever.
So, talking about 2020, you come off such a successful season in 2019, and we'll talk about that. But let's talk about your feelings of having your season suspended and then ultimately canceled. What was that like for you guys as competitors? Because not only that, you knew going into the game against Rhode Island that was it.
We knew that was our last game of the season.
That's right, because the men were playing, and then we were trying not to let you guys know, but somehow Marc found out.
It was like on
Twitter or something.
Instagram or something.
What are you doing on your phones in the locker room?
Well, we were at dinner. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair
Team
enough. All right,
dinner.
cool. All right. Anyway, back. So, what were your feelings on the 2020 season being cut short? You're 3-1. Oh, you're 2-1 at the time. So, before the Rhode Island game.
I mean, I was upset. Like, this was going to be a really good season for us, and knowing that before going into that last game, I think it got us all like very hyped up, and we all went in there very aggressively. And it was a really fun game though. Like that game, like I will always remember that game. It was so much fun. And
the Rhode Island coach said that to Marc after the game because her girls knew too.
Yeah.
And they went in, and I feel like you guys played that out on the field a little bit, and that's how it was between both teams, where it was physical, but it wasn't a physical like against Becker. It was physical. It was physical like that was almost your Super Bowl, right, in a lot of ways. So you didn't know if you'd be playing again. That was also the highest scoring game in team history, by the way, 31 goals between the two teams, 17-14 you guys won, I know, right? I've been doing the record books, so we're good. So, Anna, your feelings on the 2020 season?
I was pretty sad, I guess, and well, at first it didn't really register. I was like, oh, now I have so much free time, and then we got sent home from school, and I was like, okay, I haven't seen my friends, and then I have all this free time, and I don't know.
And then Marc would text us and be like, "Oh, beautiful game for a lacrosse, beautiful day for a lacrosse game," and we're like, "Way to rub it in!" Remind us that we're supposed to have a game today.
Yeah, well, that was the tough thing, and we played through that spring. It's tough when it's already happening. The fall has now been canceled, but that was before it started. But to have it happen in the middle of a season. Not only a season that you're successful in and probably going to go on and likely go to the playoffs again, probably beat some teams you wouldn't normally beat. I know there's one team that we would all like to beat, and that may have happened this year too. But let's talk about 2019 and how you guys were coming off such a successful season going into 2020. first winning season in program history. You finished the regular season 9-7. You go to the playoffs, the second in team history. The first was under you in 2013, right? When your first year in the MASCAC. And last season, you guys played so well in 2019. I keep saying last season, like 2020 didn't happen, but 2019 played so well. Your conference record was 3-4. There's one picture, and it was posted the other day, and neither one of you were in it. I think it's the first picture I ever posted on social media where neither one of you were in it. But it's such a great picture. It's I think Cammie actually scores the goal. Alyssa comes over and gives her a big hug, and Erica Overstreet comes in with the stick in the air.
Yeah.
And it's such a great picture because 3 days later you guys beat up on Salem State 16-5,
Yep.
and get yourselves into the MASCAC playoffs against Worcester State. What was the 2019 regular season like for you guys?
I mean, it was just exciting. Like, we were doing so well. We had like a lot of good freshmen come in, and it took us a little while to like figure out how to work together. But like once we got into once we clicked, it was just like so much fun because like we were beating teams we've never beat before, and it was just like we were all I don't know.
I think like we finally got to that level where we're actually competing with these teams.
Yeah.
Like it's like fun winning, but not when you win by like 20 points.
Yeah.
But like when you're like fighting, like I think that's where the game gets fun.
Yeah.
Well, you did have 3 of those games in a row. Your first 2, you had your first shutout, and then you had another shutout, and then you won 20-1. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's tough, right?
Just,
it's like
not that fun. Like
Yeah, well,
it's not aggressive or anything. It's just
Yeah.
like
and when when you flip it on its head, I mean, you saw so many times. You saw this team get beat
yeah.
by that many goals, right?
Yeah.
And I looking through everything, the team that came into the league that really gave you guys that fighting shot was MCLA when they came in.
Yeah.
Because they were always beatable, and you beat
Also
them pretty
playing
handily.
a man down.
Also playing a man down, right? So you were playing a
helped.
man down and still winning 7. So that's got to be a great feeling. But you talk about winning 20-1, and I had a conversation with Coach Palombo after one of the games, and he kind of touched on that and said, I love winning. I want to beat up on these teams, he says, but I know that the games that are closer are the ones that are more competitive, and the girls, I don't want to say fight more because it sounds bad, but fight more in because they are closer. 17-14 against
Yep.
Rhode Island College, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. Like, that was fun.
You
guys
feel the
loved that.
rush.
And we
Yeah.
tend to get sloppy when we're playing. We don't try
Yeah.
our best when we're playing against these teams that we're beating up on.
And that's what Coach Palombo said. And he was like, and I don't want to put up more than 20 because it kind of brings our level of play down. But we've also been beat by that much. So it's like, at what point do you call mercy and call it a day? So, but at the same time, when everything's clicking on all cylinders, great freshman class, right? You guys are only sophomores in 2019, right? So, I mean, that's exciting to come in and play the way that you did. When you get to the playoffs against Worcester State and you see a school bus pull up with 40, 50 kids in it from Mass Maritime, and then you see other friends and fellow cadets and student athletes come, and most of us will know that Sav Leet had her air horn taken away during the Worcester State game. But leave it to Sav, right? If you're watching, Sav, we love you. But you go up to Worcester State, and you end up losing, and that's the second time we've lost to Worcester State in the playoffs, right?
Oh, I was there in the stands
Yeah,
with their old coach.
reminiscing while you're watching the
Reminiscing
game.
while we were watching.
What was that game like for you guys going to the playoffs? Second time in school history. It's your first winning season.
I think since it was only the second time that the school's ever been to playoffs, I think a lot of us were very nervous. So like we were really excited but really nervous, and we just let our nerves like take advantage, and we all just like fell apart the whole game.
I think
we
like the
never
first
clicked.
half though, we were like in there. I think it was like 6-6 or something.
That was close,
And then
yeah.
we also, I think we had like 1 or 2 subs, and we had
Yeah.
Amanda get hurt. So then I think we all just got like exhausted.
We were
and,
exhausted, yeah.
yeah, the scoreboard kept going up.
Not by much. 12-6. I mean,
It wasn't that bad, but
no, and I mean, Worcester State was a team that you guys had lost to in the regular season,
Yeah.
and you obviously wanted to turn that around. And what was great about this story is, I don't even think at the end of the season anybody, gave you guys a chance, right? We can talk about it, and it's still a sore spot for me where none of you got all conference honors, which I know, Leslie feels the same way, right? But so. What is that feeling like? You're going into the 2019 season. I mean, you guys may not have expected to go 9-7 and have a winning record, but what's it like at the end of the season to kind of still have that reaction from other teams in the league to not give you the respect that you do deserve?
well, I love it when we play them and they're coming like thinking we're like this easy team, and then we like show them and they're like shocked because
Yeah.
they're not expecting
We definitely
it.
like turned some heads within the
They were not
conference, which is like,
expecting it.
I don't know, it's always fun proving people wrong, I guess.
Well, during a conversation I had with the football team and with Greg Foligno, who is the former athletic trainer, was that so many times he would get phone calls after football games during his time, and other schools would say, our guys got beat up, even if our football team lost by 20 points. But we were getting that from coaches after they played you guys. Like, seriously, I mean, whether you got beat by like Merchant Marine, who we can talk about that game again, because that was an interesting one. But
thank
even their coach was like, your girls beat ours up. Like that is something that you guys can take in, and that brings me to one of my other points: is what made you guys choose Mass Maritime to come here as student athletes, or to come here as cadets, and then to play a sport. And do you feel that there is a certain kind of human, a certain kind of person that comes here, male or female? Is that true?
I don't think everyone can come to this school. Like, some people just cannot handle it, but I think it takes us, like, I don't know, people have like determination when they're here, and they're like, they want to succeed. Like, not that people don't want to succeed,
Sure.
but like some people are like, wouldn't be able to handle like the regiment, and like that's a big part of the school. So it's like not everyone can handle that. And so I do
think like
certain
we
people-
came here, like, well, I came here for an education, and
Yeah.
and like sports, or at least like lacrosse, I literally played lacrosse to make friends. Like, I wasn't, and here we are. I wasn't like, I didn't really know the game too well, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I came here because, well, my dad came here, and then I grew up in Sagamore Beach, and then I always knew I wanted to play lacrosse. And then I met Marc in high school, and I did the play day here with my high school, and then Michaela gave me a tour, and then right after that I did an overnight, and that was it.
Sold.
And you both came here. It's amazing. I talked to some of the other athletes, and they're like, yeah, this is why we came here. And you guys are like, well, I wanted an education, and I met the coach, and it was fun. And but that's good. I mean, that's what we want here, because, and I know, Leslie, we could talk about this forever, that the type of male athlete that comes here is very different than the female athlete that comes here, right?
Yeah.
Where a male athlete comes here for the sport. Where a female athlete, like the two of you, comes here for the education and then just happens to play a sport. How many times did you see that as a coach, and now in your position?
I mean, that was one of our biggest obstacles, is making sure that the people who were coming here, like in recruiting, especially at a D3 level, like for the most part, these women, student comes first. That's the first title. And then student athlete can come next, regiment, and then student athlete. And having played a sport in college, I really was very aware that having that couple of hours every day to step away from the pressures of school was so important to me and helped me be a better student. And here, that's even more compounded. I mean, that was such a huge deal for me, is once you guys pass that pole and get on the field, like, the regiment is gone.
Yeah.
That is not Miss So-and-so, that is not ma'am, that is your teammate. And being able to provide the females here with that kind of an atmosphere, and like to be able to build lifelong friendships and have some fun, was such a huge thing. But on that same level, you have to have the person who's willing to put that hard work in and wants to try so hard to be the best player they can be year round for themselves. They're not
Sure.
doing it for a scholarship. They're not doing it for any other reason but for themselves and the team that they hopefully buy into. So it is. I mean, it's a slippery slope here.
And talking about the regimen, and I've heard it so many times when you walk onto the field. I saw it a lot in the men's side of things, but when you two were freshmen, the regimental commander was Michaela Correa, right?
Yeah.
Scary.
She's kind of scary, right? Michaela, we don't actually mean that you're scary. My office is right across the hall from her, so I don't want to say anything I'll regret later. No, but I heard the same things from people that didn't play with her or weren't coached by her. At first, so now she's your assistant coach. At first, what was that like to play with that regimental commander, and how was that? Anybody who's watching, it's homecoming weekend, so people watching have some kind of connection to the regiment. What was that like to cross onto that field and have to go from this is my regimental commander to this is my goalie? Which really, in the realm of sports, that doesn't change anything, does it? Right? So, but
Right
what was that like?
I mean, she is tough. She's like, if you don't know her, and like, she is very intimidating. And like, we were quiet freshmen, and like,
we were,
walking
like,
onto the
mute.
field, we were like, we thought she was gonna be like the way she was in the regiment, like very intense and all this stuff. But it took like a week, and I think everyone like opened up to her, and she was like, okay, don't call me ma'am. Like, she
Yeah.
dropped all of that stuff. But
kind of you'd forget she's like the regimental commander, and you'd be like talking. You'd be
and then
like,
we
"Wait."
walk, and then we start walking, and she's like, no. Okay.
But now on the other side of things too, so after that freshman season, she graduates and now she becomes your assistant coach. So now she's kind of back in that
Yeah.
right? But now even on the field, it is kind of almost like a ma'am, right?
Yeah.
Because now she's your assistant coach. How much did that help you guys, one, having your former goalie and RC now be your assistant coach, along with a guy that you already respected? I mean, what was that like?
I mean,
Yeah.
Michaela is like, she's the best person to know. Like, she can
Yeah.
help you with anything
Anything.
you need help with. Like, if we're always in her office, like,
Yeah, like,
she
just to
texts us all the
talk.
time. Like, she's just so helpful with everything. Like,
She has a lot of
school.
connections too.
Yeah.
Like if you need something, like she can get it to you
right
like
away.
by the end of the
Right
day.
away.
And
Yeah.
she's been like that, not only with you guys. I mean, she definitely holds a spot in her heart for you guys, right? But she's like that with everybody. She's had cadets who are in their junior year going into their senior year. Nate Morera, who was the regimental commander last year, right? He was in her office last year too, just getting help, like you said,
Yep.
help, because she has connections. She can help you with anything because she held that highest position as a
Yeah.
student at Massachusetts Maritime Academy. So definitely a great resource to have. And as a teammate, and she still holds records in the. She actually has
does.
I think it's the most wins as a goalie in
Really?
program history. So nice job recruiting that one. Nice job bringing that one in.
From day one, I said she was going to be the regimental commander. So
And she was
Taking credit for
scaring
that.
freshmen the moment they step on the field.
exactly.
Well, and so, and not necessarily the Michaela and Marc love fest here, but you did bring Michaela in. Marc was your assistant coach, and you did bring Michaela in as a cadet and saw her grow, and now is the assistant coach. I mean, so we can really track every coach in the women's lacrosse program through you. How does that feel?
Oh, I can't take credit for it at all. But yes, I mean, I think that that's a huge part is being able to surround yourself with people who are going to help build you up and move everything forward. And I think, you know, I lucked out with Michaela and I lucked out with Marc, but I was a big enough person to know that I couldn't do it without them. And I mean, my relationship with Michaela has been, you know, the coaching, professional. I've had her work for me. She's been my coworker, like everything at this point. And I do that because I understand that she's such a wonderful person and so connected and can help you with anything that you need and would help any one of us at the drop of a hat. But and I think that's a huge key to their success too moving forward is that they've created a wonderful team and it starts at the top, and Marc has built, you know, put some great coaching along with him, and that is the best thing for the team and the improvement.
And that's Mass Maritime in a nutshell. We've talked about that with Coach Kelly, Coach Karate, Coach Perry, all of them. You know, we can go run through the list again, Coach Ruggieri. And all of them were connected in some way. And one thing that Coach Karate said when Greg Foligno and Coach Jerry walked in was, I get to sit down with my two bosses, which was interesting because they were.
Yeah.
They were, and are, actually, Greg Foligno is Coach Karate's boss right now, for those of you from Bourne. But he mentioned that, and we talked about it, how, then Mike kind of took over those positions after Bob retired, and those connections at Mass Maritime and those positions rotate and flip-flop so often that it is really about a family and respect
family.
and exactly. And that's what I've heard in the 2.5 years I've been here. I'm going on my third year. It's amazing. I've been here almost as long as you guys. So one thing that Michaela did help me with, which I do know all of these numbers, but they astound me every time I look at them. And I want to talk about statistics a little bit because you guys are kind of a big deal. So Casey, if you didn't know, you are number 2 all-time in goals scored with 116. You scored 50 in your freshman season, 52 in your sophomore season, and you were on your way to, you scored 14 and 4 in 2020. When you look up and see Steph Hunt above you, who you played with, right? Another maybe intimidating human being.
Yeah, she is.
There she is right there, number 22, that's right. I don't know how we ended up with 22 and not 28. I really don't. But I guess that's Michaela.
Which was Mark's number.
28
and that's
was
why
Mark's
Michaela
number, too.
was 28.
Mark's number is 28.
Yeah, Mark was
that's
28.
why Michaela was 28.
Oh, that's
It's actually retired by the only number retired by the men's lacrosse team is number 28.
That's
Mark
so
Palombo.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, Mark.
There you go. There's your fun fact from Massachusetts Maritime today. So when you look up, you see Steph Hunt up there. You're second in all-time in goals in program history. What does that mean to you to be that prolific when it comes to Mass Maritime athletics? Because it doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter how young the team is, right? The two of you are two of the best athletes in Mass Maritime Academy history, right?
Thanks, Joe.
Well, but I mean, that goes back, well, and I don't want to down anybody out. We have so many Hall of Famers, we have so many, but right now is such an interesting time in Mass Maritime because we have so many prolific athletes, male and female, right? But 116 goals, you're number 2. I mean, do you like,
Yeah,
it's so
it's
weird
crazy.
coming from my side because I see the numbers every day.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like looking at a video game, and you guys just live your lives. You go out, you come on the field, you score goals, you go home, right?
Yep.
That's it. That's Casey's whole day. Wake up, go to class, score goals, go to sleep, repeat. Well, what is that like?
Honestly, it's crazy. Like, I did never picture this happening. It's just like, it's from, like, Steph is like, helped me get to where I am. Like, when we were freshmen, like, Steph would be like, all right, you two go in the middle. I'm going to feed you the ball, and you're going to get it in the net. And we were like,
Okay. As long as don't hit my
we
head.
were like, okay. And, like, she helped us get to where we are.
Yeah.
And so did Michaela. And
Mark.
and Mark. It's just crazy. Like, I didn't think that would happen, but, like, kind of sad the last season was canceled because he probably won't beat her now, but
Now you got to
never
score
know.
like 70 next year,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
all right. We know what we got to do with the schedule.
True.
So, and then Anna, I mean, you are number 1 in program history in draw controls. I believe you're also number 1 in ground balls as well. All around. She's like,
Very important
this
stats.
is, they are very important
Very
stats. See, this is what I mean. It's so interesting to see it from this side of things, and student athletes don't always see that. I've talked to Coach Kelly about that before, and I mean, he still holds records with the football team. I've talked to Michaela about that, and it's kind of like, in a vacuum, it's a big deal, right? So, I mean, you were the best face-off taker. I mean, I don't like to say it, a draw control taker, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, you were the best one in the conference last year, and at ground balls, and that's probably why Mark put the two of you together and said, you're best friends now.
Yeah. They're
Because,
kind of forced to be friends.
right? Because he saw something that you guys maybe didn't. Like you said, it's crazy. When you walked in here on day 1, you probably didn't think that that's what was
Yeah.
going to happen.
Nope.
And, I had Colin McCabe, Jack Fontana, and George Lampros on in for an interview as well, and they said the same thing. Like, Jack Fontana never realized he had 103 tackles last season. He wasn't scoreboard watching.
Yeah.
It's my job, right? But 116 draw controls.
Yeah.
I think I have that number right. It's pretty close. And Anna's like, yeah.
I never really look at the
team to make
stat.
friends.
But I know that's weird because I literally lacrosse wasn't my main sport. Let alone took my first draw control at Mass Maritime.
I remember he pulled us
Yeah.
aside freshman year and was like, all right, one of you was taking the draw. And he's like, practice with each other. And it was like, oh, Anna can get it further. Anna, you're taking the draw.
He taught me he takes it a weird way too. He makes us crank our arm forward, but it works. And now I take all the draw controls unless I need a break, Casey. I make
Yeah, mostly had to look straight up to figure out where the ball was going to. So you've made it an art, and it's very interesting. For those of you that don't know the women's lacrosse game, it's a very different game. It's a lot of fun to watch. It really is. And Anna, we talk about two-sport athletes here. It's very big on the women's side of things. It used to be very big on the men's side of things, but now a lot of women are playing two sports here. And what has that experience been like for you? Someone who didn't necessarily come in thinking sports, you came in thinking education.
Yeah.
You came here to play soccer and then fell into lacrosse. What was that like?
Thank God.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Imagine if I didn't get that email that said there's team meeting. I had no friends. I was like, I gotta go, guys. But yeah, definitely soccer ends and then lacrosse starts right back up for fall ball, and then vice versa in the spring. So it's definitely a busy schedule, but it's so worth it. When I have the free time, it's I'm not that productive. But when you have soccer and lacrosse, you kind of just you have to get everything done by a certain time.
Yeah.
Some of the most relaxing times I've seen with you guys is when you come down to the team room and you guys just look so relaxed and hanging out, ready to go, and you walk on that field and it's switch flips, and it's a very different atmosphere for you guys. But being two sport athletes, soccer, lacrosse, what would you say to other prospective students that may watch this? And I mean, what would
you're
you
going
say
to learn
that?
time management for
That's
sure.
the best thing to
and
learn.
it's
too.
A lot of late nights and early mornings, but it's so worth it. And you'll have your friends right beside you doing the same thing, so
meet your
you're not
best
alone.
friends,
Yeah, for sure.
Or get forced to meet your best friend.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah.
But it worked out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
Most of the time, just on the field. Right?
Yeah.
So as we wrap up the conversation, I appreciate the three of you coming on, and Leslie, being in the positions you've been in as a coach and as an administrator and everything else, what would you say to, I guess, former student athletes, current student athletes, prospective student athletes about, especially from a woman's point of view, women's athletics? What would you say to those who have come and those who will?
I just think that having that bond with the teammates and being able to leave the regiment behind here is so important, and really what I would say would be the biggest key to success here at the Academy. I mean, I feel very lucky that I knew about Mass Maritime before I started coaching here, because I think that I don't necessarily think I would have been as successful not knowing what it was like to, what your pressures were as a cadet here and what it was like to be in the regiment. And just having that time with your girlfriends is key.
Same question to you guys. Kind of what would you say to, the program's pretty young. You've played in it for pretty much half of its existence so far. What would you say to your former teammates and current? I mean, this is homecoming weekend. Say whatever you want.
Donate to the women's lacrosse team.
Yeah, I just Venmo. Yeah, no, you're definitely gonna meet friends for a lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, you're spending a serious amount of time together, especially
every
when
day
you're,
for the whole spring semester. You're with them. You grow a bond.
yeah.
No, you're literally like sisters at that point, and it's just so much fun. And it's taught me time management. I know I got to get my work done, so I get my work done, and then I go to lacrosse, and then I just relax the rest of the night. And it is just it relieves the stress. You just go and run around for 2 hours, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah. Getting to leave the regiment behind and not worry about a room inspection or like personal inspections. Like,
Yeah, it's a big.
it's nice to just like leave that behind and like go feel like a normal college student
Yeah.
for like an hour or two.
Yeah, it's interesting. You come here for the regiment, but then you want to get away from it for a few
Yeah.
hours.
Well, it's a
crazy.
lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot,
Yeah,
and,
no,
and that's
definitely
what
need a
we hear it so often. We see it so often in athletics, and whether you were a cadet here or not, you see it, especially being around student athletes all the time.
Yeah.
When you're up in Michaela's office or you're just in the building, you can see it's a very different atmosphere for you guys. But you come here for one thing, and it is nice to get away. And last question: what's your favorite women's lacrosse memory
Memory?
so far? On the spot.
Honestly,
Anna can go if you don't remember.
I just die laughing every time Mark says red dog. That's when you're supposed to get intense, and he'll just scream it, and I just start laughing, and we start running around. It's just so
Aimlessly,
funny.
yeah.
We're just all running around, and he's yelling red dog, and it's just funny. I can't think of a good memory though.
I remember this was when we were forced to room together in SUNY when we went to New York freshman year. And this was, I just learned how to take a draw control, but Steph was taking most of them. But then he had me take one, and I got it. I got the draw control, and then I ended up scoring. And then the same thing happened again after that, and I think we were 2 points behind or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark pulled me aside, and he's like, "You need to get the draw control," screaming at me. And I was a freshman. I was pretty scared. And I ended up getting it and passing it to Steph, and then we scored one more goal after that, and we ended up winning the SUNY Cup.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that was a really good.
really
the
fun.
13-12 game.
Yeah,
So,
that was
yeah.
13 to 12. That
It was very intense.
Yeah, SUNY wasn't very happy about that.
No.
no. We still have the
We,
trophy.
we have the memorial trophy. Yes, we do, which is great. So again, thank you both. I think we kind of get a nice little glimpse here inside the program now, and I mean, without you, we probably just don't have a program.
Thank you.
No, it was great to sit down with the three of you, and putting the program where it is now. You guys can always fall back on that, right? You were a part of it, and you were there at the start of it, and it's pretty cool to think about it. I mean, you were there in the infancy of this program, and we can say that a lot about a lot of the people that we've talked to in these interviews, whether it's Coach Karate, Mike Kelly, Don Ruggieri, the three of you. It's a lot of fun to kind of reminisce on Mass Maritime Athletics during homecoming week, and when you talk about Mark and his intensity, it's why he keeps Michaela and Caitlin around. I want you to know that.
Yeah, 100%.
It might be less for their coaching ability, which they have great coaching ability,
They
but
need to
more
calm
for their
him
personality
down.
to calm him
someone
down.
needs
Yeah, it is great, and they have a great relationship together, and I think that's another great thing about the coaching staffs here at Mass Maritime as a whole is there's very rarely friction in coaching staffs, and that's a great thing. So thank you, ladies, for joining me today. Once again, Leslie Bushy, Casey Sullivan, Anna Deely. Thank God they're wearing name tags. Wouldn't know who they were otherwise. But thank you, ladies, very much for sitting down. I'm Joe Malkin. Enjoy the rest of our homecoming and reunion weekend.